Welcome back to Spring River Homestead. I'm Kanan.
I'm Nikki.
And today is Wednesday, which means it's Would You Rather Wednesday. What are we going to be talking about today?
We are going to be talking about, and I love animal questions because I always know and he fumbles. We are talking about milk goats versus milk cow.
All right, this is going to be a one-person show, and it's not going to be me. I'm going to be the spectator in this. But give us a couple minutes. We're going to come up with our choice, and we have to defend our choice. So be right back. All right, we have made our choices, and I can tell you what, this is going to be Nikki's show. So I'm going to go first because I don't have a lot to add. All right, so having no experience with a milk cow, I'm probably going to choose a milk goat for fresh milk. Now, last year Nikki started milking, so I will tell you that having raw versus pasteurized, etc., I had pretty low expectations of raw milk, and that's because we had store-bought goat milk, which I know had been through a filter and all the other stuff. And I could tell you what, I really was pretty unimpressed with store-bought goat milk. So when she said she was going to buy milk goats, I was really kind of like, no, I already tasted this stuff. It's terrible, and I don't want a lifetime supply of it. But I can tell you the food quality, the food alone of goats is way less than a cow. And the volume of milk per day on even just 3 goats that Nikki had last year was only, a third to a fifth of what one cow could produce.
And part of that's the goats that I've got, but yeah.
Right. Out of those two, knowing that feed is extremely high between them and goats will darn near eat anything vegetable related, I would choose goats. They're a lot easier to handle. They're a lot easier to maintain, I think, for barns, etc., feed, and they're a lot easier to handle. Cows are, sometimes thousands of pounds, 8,000 pounds, where goats are 150 and a lot easier to handle. So milk goats for me.
I am also going for milk goats. Partially because lactose is an issue and cow's milk does not make me a happy camper. Now I will say I've never had raw cow's milk, at least not that I can remember. So I know that could be part of it, is just that cow's processed milk bothers me. But the reason we do milk goats and not milk cows is a couple of things. We live in an area where good pasture for cows is really hard to come by. Mm-hmm. So I can take acres that a cow can't really use and stick the goats on it and still get milk. I know there are people that will argue if they're eating sagebrush, if they're eating all this kind of stuff, that you'll get funky tasting goat milk. We didn't find that. We didn't find that at all. Ours eat pretty much what they can come up with. They do get some grass and some alfalfa. And of course I give them a little bit of actual grain when they're on the stand. Keeps them calm, keeps them less likely to kick the milk bucket out of my hand. And really you can do everything with goat's milk that you can do with cow's milk. Like everything. The only thing that's a little bit more difficult is just getting cream to make butter. You've really either got to go for a cream separator or try and separate it off in the refrigerator and scoop it off because it's not quite the heavy cream and it doesn't separate the way that cows does. Milk is naturally homogenated. I think it's the right word for that. So it stays kind of blended together. I find that I like goat cheese almost better. The only thing is I am definitely a sharp cheddar girl, so I do like that. And I'm going to experiment with some of the aged cheeses this year when we start milking. It's going to take kind of building a little bit of a cheese cave and doing some cool stuff. But the soft cheeses that I've done, even he liked them. Mm-hmm. We've done some ricotta and some real basic stuff. And I couldn't tell you the difference between cow and goat as far as taste. Like, there really is no difference to me. And He didn't seem to think so either. You can't go wrong with the fact that the size difference is huge. I'm getting older, I'm kind of easing my way into the mid 40s now. And I don't want to fight an 800-pound animal that is not real crazy about the whole milking process. On top of that, there's only 2 of us. So cows put out an awful lot of milk. And even with 3 goats, and our goats didn't milk real heavy. I mean, I milked a 10-year-old doe, a 9-year-old doe, and a 5-year-old doe. So milk production was not real great. I didn't even start milking them until their babies were 8 weeks. So they were already kind of drying up. It takes over the refrigerator at a rapid clip.
Yeah, I mean, on the good days, I mean, she would come in and you were getting half gallon a day. Is that right?
No, by the end, I was almost getting a full gallon.
A full gallon of milk per day for 2 people. I mean,
and that's milking once a day.
And that's once a day. I mean, it's like she said, it takes over the fridge. Half of our fridge at the high point was probably milk and cheese.
Yeah. And I was making cheese as fast as I could to keep the milk volume down. And then you end up with whey, which is a byproduct. So I was feeding it to chickens and doing all kinds of stuff with it. I cannot imagine trying to keep up with a milk cow for 2 of us.
Yeah.
I mean, I know there are people that are like, oh, well, we give it to our chickens and we give it to our hogs and that doesn't really work for us. Like,
right.
I feel like if you take the time to pasture a cow, you obviously want that huge volume of milk. For us, the milk is a byproduct.
Right.
So the goats are actually here to keep the sagebrush and the vegetation down for fire season. That's all we ever got goats for. We always said, well, we'll eat them if we need to. And, having a little milk project would be nice. That was way before dairy got to be as expensive as it is.
Mm-hmm.
But the milk is really a byproduct of what we actually bought the goats for. We could not do that same thing with a cow. Cows don't clear land in the way that goats do. So I feel like doing cows is more of an intentional pasture animal, whereas goats can be a more land clearing kind of thing. And they do. Like, we had no issues at all with running them on sage and weeds and whatever else they could put in their mouth. And we didn't notice any flavor difference.
Nope.
Nothing. They did just fine. So I'm going with goats. I think they're more manageable all the way around. And you can put enough goats out there to get the same milk volume.
Yeah.
And you can't go wrong with the fact that goats typically birth multiples. I mean, that's another part of it. Cows, usually you get 1 baby. Goats, you can get anywhere up to like quints, depending on the breed.
Right.
And they come in different sizes too. I mean, like, we have Nubians because I have fairly good size hands. And so I learned this last year as a first timer. Teat size is everything. I don't think I could bring myself to do any of the Nigerian dwarves. It's just awkward. But they come in different sizes. If you don't need a lot of milk, you can get dwarves. Much easier to fence in. For mid-size, there are kinders and some of the other more mid-sized Swiss breeds. And then you can go all the way up to the large breeds like the Nubians and Saanens and some of the bigger stuff. So they come in every different size. And if they get mad and they hit you, they're less likely to kill you.
That's true. And the stanchion. I mean, the stanchion alone, we bought one this last year that's aluminum.
Mm-hmm.
Very easy to collapse down, set aside, very easy to set up.
Yep.
It'll handle all the goats you want. Something that's, 10 times the size. It's going to be a heck of a lot of investment.
My girlfriend that had bought cows to do milk cows, and then it didn't really work out. She ended up getting rid of them. Part of that was how high our feed got. Her head gate, that's not the whole stanchion, that's just the head gate, was as much as what our entire goat stanchion with a different head. So we have 2 different heads for our goat stanchion. We have the milking head, and then we've got the fit head that you use more for trimming feed and that kind of stuff, where it restrains them a little better. So we got the entire thing with ramp, all of that, with extra side rails for the exact same price as what she paid for just the head gate for her cow.
Yeah.
So equipment's a little cheaper.
That is true. So that's it. 2 for goats, 0 for cows, at least for us. Just doesn't make a lot of sense. But if cow does make sense for you, put it down below and tell us why it makes sense versus doing 5 goats versus, whatever.
And if one of your arguments is, I don't like the taste of goat milk, I'm going to tell you right now, you've got to find somebody that's doing goat milk and get actual goat milk. I don't know what they do to it in the store.
I don't know either.
But we've bought a couple of different brands, very well-renowned brands, and there is a huge taste difference between what you buy in the store and what we were able to produce here. And I really thought it was very comparable. He couldn't tell the difference between the goat and the cow milk.
That's right.
So, yeah, don't let that store stuff be your guide.
That's right. So that's it for this time on Springer Homestead on Would You Rather. Goat is the way to go. Forget those cows. We don't need that. And they're cute. So that's it. We'll see you next time.
Happy homesteading.